The theme for this month is commitment. And this morning our service is spiritual practices for white discomfort as a means of staying committed in the important activist work that we're committed to. It's good to have you here this morning.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Mike Frankum, and I serve on your Fellowship Board of Directors. Thank you all for being here today, and a warm welcome to any visitors joining us. Feel free to stay on the connection after the service and join us for our coffee hour conversation. Your UUFA Board of Directors voted unanimously to extend the closure of the Fellowship Building indefinitely. We continue to monitor the public health situation and review the recommendations of the UUA and community health experts. While it can be a challenge to be a part, your board of directors is committed to providing a safe environment for all who call this fellowship home. But for now, I hope you're enjoying the virtual services as much as I am. For me, the value of the messages and connections have not diminished due to the change to virtual. While the building may be closed, the fellowship remains open. Please check the UUFA website and watch for the weekly emails for a complete schedule of various opportunities to connect throughout the week. On behalf of this caring, nurturing congregation, I welcome you to this sacred space. We invite you into an experience of transformation, hope, renewal, and connections, which may inspire you to understand life in new ways. Thank you for joining today.
Thank you, Mike. We begin our service with the ringing of our chime 3 times. Once to wake the chime, once to open our minds, and once to open our hearts.
In the world of the driven, let us be drawn in. Let your love be a given, let us be drawn in. To imagine, to dream, to create, to redeem, for the sake of the living, let us be drawn in.
Our chalice lighting words are by Anne Barker. We gather because we are hopeful, because we have visions and dreams of a brighter future. May the strength of this time together help us journey forward. May the wisdom of this experience help us to know our path. May we have the courage to return as often as necessary until our way is clear. May we have the perseverance together to see it through.
In the world of the driven, let us be drawn in. Let your voice be a given, let us be drawn in. To imagine, to dream, to create, to redeem, for the sake of the living, let us be drawn in.
As we enter into virtual sacred space and gather together, the poetry of Norman Mailer and the music of Elizabeth Alexander reminds us, do not leave your cares at the door.
Do not leave your cares at the door. Do not leave them there when you come into this place. Be open to forgiveness and transformation. Come on in, you are welcome here. And do not leave your cares at the door. Oh, bring your pain and sorrow and joy. There's a place for them upon the altar of life. Be open to forgiveness and transformation. Come on in, you are welcome here. And do not leave your cares at the door. This is a place of grace, a place of losing and finding our way upon the winding road, meeting and parting, stumbling and starting over. Every story is sacred here, even yours. Even yours. So come on in and do not leave your cares at the door. Do not leave them there when you come into this place. Be open to forgiveness and transformation. Come on in, you are welcome in. Come in and do not leave your cares at the door. Amen. Amen. Amen.
The March Offertory recipient is the Creative Vision Human Development Institute. This Des Moines-based institute strives to break the chain of poverty and helplessness within vulnerable communities by empowering them to become self-responsible and self-sufficient. They do this work through education and economic development, all at the individual, family, and community levels. At the end of the service, I invite you to go to the UUF Ames website and the Give tab, and I thank you for your generosity in support of this important institution. Our time for all ages this morning is an affirmation story by Gabby Garcia with illustrations by Charity Russell. It's called I Can Do Hard Things.
I Can Do Hard Things. Mindful Affirmations for Kids by Gabby Garcia. Illustrated by Charity Russell. I don't always feel brave, confident, or strong. Sometimes it's easier to follow others along. I get so many messages about how I should be, pulled in different directions. I feel wobbly. When this happens, I listen for that quiet voice inside. When I pay attention, that voice is my guide. I connect with the love and strength it brings. It helps me remember I can do hard things. I can be a friend to myself. I can feel all my feelings. I can ask for help. I can try again rather than give up. I can believe in myself. I can speak up when it would be easier to stay quiet. I can say no, even to my friends. I can apologize. I can forgive. I can listen to understand different points of view. I can care for my community. I can choose kindness. I can practice peace. I can share my gifts with the world. I can be myself. Hard things can be about what we think, feel, say, or do. What's hard for me may not be hard for you. You are you, and I am me. We walk through the world differently. Trusting my voice helps me find my way. I grow braver and stronger every day. The tough stuff I face is all my own, but I can also remember I'm not alone. I'm ready for the hard things I have to do. And please remember, so are you.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Carlson, and our opening words this morning are by Reverend Victoria Safford. The piece is called Beloved Community. The beloved community is not a goal or a destination, and it was not any kind of idealistic Christian utopian dream, but instead a way of being spiritually, politically, economically, emotionally, intellectually. Beloved community is an attitude, an orientation of the heart. It's a disciplined understanding of your own relationship to other people, to everyone else on the planet, to every living thing. If you are religious, this is a religious discipline, and it goes by many names. If you are seeking spiritual wholeness, spiritual balance, it is a spiritual discipline. If you are an ethical humanist, it is a deliberate moral stance. It is a daily practice, a spiritual politics that requires inclusivity, nonviolence, and the hard discipline of radical hospitality. It requires love, agape.
Jaden Fuqua is a member of the UUFA board and the youth group. This morning, they offer a reflection on the eighth principle, a constant journey discovering newly revealed truths.
I just want to start off by thanking Jamila for introducing me and the youth group to the eighth principle, and Kent for giving me this opportunity to talk with you about it today. So part of our work as youth in the congregation has been developing skills that reflect our commitment to social justice and equity. In October, Jamila brought our attention to the eighth principle. We had a unanimous agreement just from hearing what the eighth principle stated that the UUFA should pursue the adoption. The youth group is taking an active part in this because we have a commitment to social justice and ambition for change. Topics of social justice and equity have been a part of our conversations in youth group for the past 2 years, so we felt this was a perfect opportunity to make considerable progress and change. So the thing is, Everything in the eighth principle is implied by the other seven, yet they don't directly address racism and compel us to take action to dismantle oppressions in our institutions. Our history hasn't always been perfect. Our founders contributed to eugenics, supported legislation that enforced slavery, and most recently, some members of UUism have said that the UUA is becoming too multicultural and politically correct. This is why the eighth principle was founded, and the adoption of it gives this organization the opportunity to make reparations and change our practices to heal the wounds UUism has left on Black lives. From our active role in the civil rights movement and our continued fight for social justice, UUism has demonstrated that we have the capacity and will to transform our institutions into active anti-racist allies. We are a community that calls out injustices, and it's time that we start calling ourselves and each other out too. This is a matter of accountability. Because of the deprivations in UUism, we're heeding the call for awareness and understanding, empathy, and courage. Awareness of the contributors of oppression, understanding of the effects, empathy for those affected, and courage to stop the cycle. We're heeding the call for equity, to ensure that all people aren't just given equal opportunities, but given all the resources they need to thrive. This could be the first concrete step to achieve equity, justice, and multiculturalism in the foundation of our community. This is a chance to become part of a network of congregations who are actively anti-racist, and a chance to be part of a movement to truly show that we uphold our other seven principles, to show that everyone has inherent worth and dignity, that we strive for justice, equality, compassion, acceptance, and that we are on a constant journey discovering newly revealed truths. What I want to emphasize is that the adoption of this principle isn't what will change our congregations or UUism. It's the obligation it creates to take action.
Thank you, Jaden. Thank you very much. Each week, we take time in our service to open the space for people to share milestones, significant things in your lives that are bringing you joy or challenge or gratitude. As I open the room to gallery mode, please, you can indicate that you'd like to share a milestone by raising your hand so other people can see you. And please remember to introduce yourself, share your milestone, and let us know when you are finished. This is our time of sharing.
Oh, well,
I'll go.
go.
This is Chris White with Jeff White. And on Thursday, we celebrated our 42nd wedding anniversary. And there were people who thought it wouldn't last 20 minutes, and look at us now. We had a delightful factory tour of the Theo Chocolate Factory in Seattle, and it was really fun. So we're happy to be here. We're done.
I would like to go. This is Danelda Allen, and I've been out of state the last couple of months with my brother, Dave. He was diagnosed in late December with brain cancer and had surgery in early January to remove a tumor. So he's doing exceptionally well. I really appreciate everyone reaching out that did. If you would keep him in your thoughts. His prognosis, of course, is not good. This is what will take his life. However, he's responding really well to treatment. So we're hoping that he has a few years rather than months. And he has 3 daughters, ages 19 to 25. So you can imagine what they're going through. So yeah, if you guys would just keep all of us in your hearts, we'd really appreciate that. Thank you.
Unless there are additional milestones, we'll continue with our service. For the milestones that have been spoken, and for those that we carry in our hearts silently, please know that in this community, no one ever needs to make the journey alone. Whatever you carry with you today, know that you are loved. Let's be together in a moment of silence. It's good to be together. This morning, we have some special music by Ellie Chungath, who is the granddaughter of Irv Klaus. She's 15 years old and has been studying piano for many years and has offered Festival of Snow by Melody Bober. And we will celebrate this festival. As you can see, the snow on the hillside is melting. This morning, most of that is gone, and spring is arriving as the flowers come forth. This is Ellie Chungath, Festival of Snow.
Good morning, this is Dan Haug. Our next reading is by David F. Potter. How can spiritual practice sustain activism? A movement is growing. In recent months, hundreds of thousands have mobilized in mass protests, moved by a sense that our collective state is not well. Amid a slow and steady drip of half-truths and outright lies, action is an appropriate response, a sign of hope. Emotion-laden responses are useful in building bridges from apathy to action. Yet, as countless fatigued and burnt-out activists struggle in the wake of moral outrage, we must go deeper. We need a discipline of contemplative activism. In recognizing the challenges of working for social justice, spiritually rooted social action provides something of substance to the people in movements. From this place of rootedness, social movements can set intentions that point towards sustainability. Felina Hertz, founding partner of Gravity, a center for contemplative activism, observes, "Through activism, we confront toxicity in our world. Through contemplation, we confront it in ourselves." Through retreats and trainings, Hertz helps individuals find their own center of gravity, or as she describes, the place that inherently knows that we are loved, safe, and have no need to fear. Without practices that dismantle our unconscious egoic motivations, at best, our work will be limited in its effectiveness, and at worst, our work will exercise more violence in the world, said Hertz. In drawing from a deep well of spirituality, contemplative activism nurtures a sense of wholeness.
We are a covenantal faith, a covenantal movement, having made agreements as to how we will be in relationship with one another and move in the world. This special music this morning is an early covenant put to music called Words on the Wall by Rose Marie Harris in Kitchener, Ontario. Her music is based on the L. Griswold Williams Covenant, and it has been adapted. So before we hear the music, to reach back in our history, I invite you to join me in saying aloud, in unison, this covenant together, as we all say, love is the doctrine of this church, the quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth. Thus do we covenant together.
Love is the doctrine
spiritual practices for white discomfort. What a beautiful reminder from Victoria Safford that we are committed to a vision of beloved community as a way of being, spiritually, politically, economically, emotionally, intellectually. It is an attitude and orientation of the heart, a disciplined understanding of our own relation to other people, to everything, everyone on the planet, and to every living thing. David Potter encourages us to reflect on contemplative activism, spiritually rooted social action that balances our work as activists with spiritual practices as a way to maintain our orientation to justice work as holy work, sustaining our orientation to justice. Last week, I was introduced to a metaphor for how Unitarian Universalism has engaged and sustained the work of dismantling racism and other oppressions since the 1960s. Microwave popcorn symbolically represents two ways of engaging the work of justice. When we prepare a bag of microwave popcorn, the instructions guide us to set the cook time for 2 to 2.5 minutes and run the microwave until that time is complete. The outcome is generally in line with our expectations, the satisfaction of completion and having a full bag of corn. But let's say that we choose to put the bag in the microwave, set the timer for 2 to 2.5 minutes, press the cook button, and stop the process after 10 seconds. Wait a while, press on again for another 10 seconds, followed by an unspecified time of no cooking, and so on, repeating the periodic 10 seconds of cooking 12 to 15 times. In theory, we've cooked the popcorn the full 2 to 2.5 minutes, but we have no popcorn at all. These are two possible approaches to anti-racist work: engaging it as in an ongoing and committed way without interruption, or dipping into the work momentarily, enough to feel like we did something, enough to feel good about ourselves, and to stop our efforts for an unspecified period of time without making significant progress to dismantle racism or other oppressions. No justice, no peace. I'm wondering what you're feeling. I admit that when I first heard this metaphor, I resisted it. I felt uncomfortable. I stopped to reflect on that and recognized that my resistance was in response to feeling judged by someone I didn't know, followed immediately by self-judging. This is a classic example of the culturally and deeply programmed white privilege and discomfort. Discomfort is a given when we are called to face the evils of systemic racism and oppression. To stop and remove ourselves from activism whenever we feel discomfort or uncomfortable is the height of white privilege. There are spiritual practices, though, to help us process the discomfort and remain engaged with our covenant, our relationships, and our commitments to act in a world that needs healing. The Unitarian Universalist College of Social Justice teaches that spiritual practices are central in finding a way to sustain ourselves in the face of oppression and injustice. The common elements in any spiritual practice are attention, intention, and repetition. Attention, intention, and repetition. Attention means that we pay attention to the present moment. We experience what is happening with openness, creativity, and a willingness to be with what is. Intention is the deliberate engagement of our will in a practice that nurtures a sense of connection to something bigger than ourselves. Repetition makes our centering activity into a habit, one that cultivates qualities like awareness, patience, and compassion. Like learning a new language or a musical instrument, repetition is how we practice awareness, curiosity, and openness to everything we do, including our daily struggles for social justice. Practicing spirituality brings a sense of perspective, meaning, and purpose to our lives. Spiritual practices help decenter our egos and help us learn and grow while being compassionate with ourselves, others, and faithful to our values. It is a spiritual practice to learn to sit with our discomfort, to name it, and to name the source of it. It takes practice to bring our attention to the present moment without judgment. Being aware of, naming, and sitting with our discomfort is crucial to our spiritual development and our ability to be allies. Human rights activist Brian Stevenson observes, "We cannot change the world if we aren't willing to do things that are uncomfortable and inconvenient." Whenever feeling judgmental towards others or ourselves, consider reframing the underlying judgment question with one of curiosity as a spiritual practice. This practice asks us to shift our thinking from a perspective of seeing something, someone, or ourselves as stupid or ineffective to a perspective of curiosity. I wonder why they chose that path. Or I wonder where my discomfort is coming from. What can I learn about myself? Why did a seemingly simple metaphor of microwave popcorn related to justice work make me feel uncomfortable? This shift has the capacity to open our hearts and our minds. Discomfort offers a learning opportunity to engage the fourth principle of Unitarian Universalism, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Remember the eighth principle. Remember Jaden's reflections and observations that we are on a constant journey discovering newly revealed truths. As we study and consider adopting the eighth principle, I recommend two of many sources of learning. First, I recommend the book Widening the Circle of Concern, which offers the UUA Commission on Institutional Changes Analysis and recommendations concerning structural and systemic racism and white supremacy culture in Unitarian Universalism. The board is reading this, and there will be a congregational read together in the near future. Please stay tuned. We'll announce that as soon as we're ready to go. A second powerful read is How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi, who invites us to imagine what an anti-racist society might look like and how we can each take an active role to create it. Make it a spiritual practice to process your feelings with other committed allies privately. We need one another to be our best selves. Reach out to someone who shares your commitment to racial justice. Processing our feelings helps us stay engaged in the work. Listen deeply to and follow the lead of Black organizers and people of color. This is radical faith, and what the Reverend Annie Gonzalez Milliken calls sacred trust. Radical faith as sacred trust. She says that it is hard for white liberals to put our sacred trust in Black activists because we are socially conditioned to not do that. But this is perhaps the most important spiritual practice, to listen and not speak, to listen and learn how we can best support as an ally to the Black Lives Matters movement. Brian Stevenson also invites us into the spiritual practice of remaining hopeful. He observes, I actually believe that hopelessness is the enemy of justice. When you allow yourself to get helpless about what you can do, what you can achieve, and what can be accomplished, you actually become part of the problem. When people stay hopeful, extraordinary things happen. We actually break down barriers that allow us to see one another and care for one another and love one another. May our actions be balanced with spiritual practices that we might sustain our orientation to justice. May we have the courage to return as often as necessary until our way is clear. May we have the perseverance together to see it through. We can do hard things together. Amen, and blessed be. Our closing song today is I Feel Like Going On, which, when we balance our activism with spiritual practices, we feel like going on, as performed by my friend and colleague, the Reverend Victor Floyd, in the Calvary Presbyterian Church in San Francisco.
On earth.
we extinguish our chalice to the words of the Reverend Kathy Huff. Our time in this virtual space may be ending, but our connection to each other and this community remains. May we accompany each other on the path of justice, speak words of love, live the selfless deed, travel gently upon the earth, and fill the world with compassion. Until we meet again, blessed be.